Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the call. We're just going to wait a few more minutes for some more people to join, and then we can proceed. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thanks again for joining the call. Welcome to our Ingram Micro sales workshop this quarter. So we're going to talk about the nice, great features that if some of you are aware or not aware, there's some really great features that have been added to Veeam Backup for 365 version 5, which has just been launched in the market. Version 5, it's gone GA, general release. Also, Veeam Backup and Replication version 11, which also has some great, amazing features. We'll talk about the exciting news around Kubernetes and Veeam's acquisition of Kasten and what they're going to bring to the table. So without further ado, I might as well get started. So quick introduction. So my name is Bernard. Some call me Bernie in the industry. I'm the Veeam BDM here at Ingram Micro. I've got with me on the call today my colleague Jacob Foraker. So Jake was going to be joining us to do a quick introduction about himself and how he fits into the business. But from a Ingram perspective, so I look after the perpetual and the subscription licensing side of things, like the resell. So I look after that nationally. So regardless of what state you're in, I'm actually Sydney based, but regardless of in the virtual world that we live in, regardless of the state that you're in, I look after you from an Ingram perspective. And my email address is on the bottom. The slides are going to be shared, so you'll have access to my email address if you don't have it already. And then Jacob looks after the cloud service providers. So the Veeam Cloud Service Provider platform, from an Ingram perspective, all the rental licenses fall under Jake. And we've also got a solution architect. That's a Veeam dedicated solution architect here at Ingram Micro. So if you ever need any pre-sales assistance, feel free to reach out to Pankaj. He's on the call as well. So if you're scoping for a customer, if you're coming up with a proof of concept or anything of the sort, if you're unsure about certain technical capabilities that Veeam might have or how certain feature sets work, Pankaj is a great resource to have. And we also have on the call Christina. So Chris is our Veeam product manager. So she's also your go-to for anything Veeam related within here at Ingram Micro. So that's our Veeam team. We also have other people as well in the team that aren't on the slide deck, but they we've got a really a robust team on that look after the Veeam product portfolio here at Ingram Micro. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Jacob so he can do a quick intro. Over to you, Jake.
Thanks, Bernie. Hi, everyone. Thanks for making time today to have a rundown of what Bernie said we're going to be going over today with V11, Kasten, and VBO V5. Like Bernie said, I look after the VCSP side of the business, so anybody that needs any help with service provider side of it, please reach out to me. Always here to help. No question is too small, no question's too big. That's what we do. So yeah, if you have anything, my contact details are there. Always happy to assist with any questions and happy to feed it back into the guys at Veeam. If you're not getting any sort of feedback, that's sort of what I do. So thanks, Bernie.
Thanks a lot, Jake. If anyone on the call will be interested in the follow-on session. So this is our sales session, sales workshop of the quarter. We're going to have another one, but a technical session next week on Wednesday. So this one, in this session, so anything that we'll have touched on this session is not purely from a sales perspective, but we're going to talk about certain products and feature sets. But if you actually want to deep dive and actually see how they actually work, actually see it for yourself, maybe we can run some demos and that sort of thing. But we've got another session next week where we're going to actually deep dive and talk about some of the technical capabilities. So in the chat box, there is a link to register for that workshop. So it's going to be great. So today's session is a sales session, and then next week's is going to be, we delve into the under the hood, into the nitty gritties. But yeah, feel free to register for that session. We've put in the chat box the link. So yeah, that'll be great. But yeah, so without further ado, I might as well go for it. So Veeam, in terms of, I always get asked the question, how is Veeam performing as a vendor? Like how does it stack up? So from it's had a 40% year-on-year growth trajectory over the past 10 or so years. In terms of backup and data protection companies out there, in terms of acquiring net new logos, Veeam's been number one in terms of acquiring net new logos. So other competitors out there that have been in the data protection space are actually bleeding and losing customers to Veeam. In terms of actual market share, it's growing exponentially, and the analysts at your Gartners, Accentures of the world, IDCs, actually rank highly of Veeam the number one data protection. So that's a bold statement, and it's proven. So what is Veeam and what does it do? So if somebody was to ask you what actually is Veeam and what does it actually do, so I really like this one shoe fits all. It's this all-in-one deck. So Veeam's the number one cloud data management vendor. So if you're looking at a backup offering for the cloud, for software as a service offerings, for apps, you know, like if you want to back up virtual environments or physical, so Veeam covers all. So if you think about it, Kubernetes with Kasten, which I'll touch on later on, cool features in Veeam backup for Office 365 version 5. Now it backs up Teams as well. And in the cloud hyperscalers, you can back up VMwares in Azure or AWS EC2. And then from a virtual perspective on-prem, in hyper-converged environments, you can back up your VMware and Hyper-V and Nutanix Acropolis hypervisors, and physical NAS appliances as well, which is great. So it's an all-in-one platform. So you can license anything, anywhere. So you can back up anything anywhere. So on-prem, public cloud, and backup and DR as a service offerings. So now let's talk about Veeam Backup for Office 365 version 5. So what are the customer pain points? Why does it matter? All right. So customers are growing impatient. So zero tolerance for downtime. Like I always use the analogy of back in the day, you would call a taxi, and you'd be happy to wait 20, 30 minutes. But now if you try and call an Uber, and if it's 10 minutes away, chances are you're going to cancel that Uber trip and look for another one. So that instant consumption, instant gratification, fast-paced world we're living in. So there's zero tolerance to double loss for in the market. Take for instance, you're doing some online shopping in your website, and that website from whatever retailer goes offline. Chances are you're going to abandon that sale and go elsewhere. So it's a fast-paced environment, and you need continuous data protection. And then that's where Veeam comes in, and I'll touch on that later. So backup is fine, well and good, but when you back up and try and recover the files, they have to be safe. So there's no point recovering an infected file. Veeam comes in and plugs that hole. So GDPR, government and compliance requirements, Veeam meets those. Staffing constraints. You don't really need to hire top level DR and recovery specialists. The product can do that for you. And in the world that we're living in the new normal, in COVID-19 or COVID type scenarios where a lot of companies have the bulk of their employees working from home, so that company and customer data is important to be backed up and safe. So these are the challenges in the market. So that's what's happening in the market. So 4-in-1 solution. So if you look at storage snapshots, backup and replication, CDP, all under a single platform. And they are over 150 new enhancements in the version 11. So for any technical folk, I would really recommend downloading a trial key, for Veeam Backup Replication version 11. There are so many feature sets in the product, so many enhancements. It's literally the best offering that Veeam has released to market at the moment. So what are the features? Continuous data protection. So we'll touch on Veeam CDP. So also they've been hardened Linux repository protection, ransomware protection. Great features, capabilities to leverage cheaper storage in Amazon S3 Glacier or Azure Archive. So instead of paying, for expensive on-prem storage when you back up your files or send your backups, you can leverage the cheaper S3 Glacier and Azure Archive storage. And there are more features in terms of instant recovery that have been added in, and added enhancements for the backup as a service and DR as a service, VCSP customer base and clients. Now I'll just quickly touch on the CDP. So these are the 5 key points. So I touched on earlier about so the need for critical workloads. Like one of the key things that is or desirables for backup software or backup technology is meeting those recovery time and recovery point objectives, the RTOs and RPOs. So you want to recover your data quickly and fast, as quickly as possible and as fast as possible. So what does continuous data protection do? So it's near zero, because it's always backing up as it's going along. So it's pretty much real time. And then from a security and cybersecurity point of view, so not only are we talking about a data protection offering, we're also talking about a cybersecurity capability as well, or some of the feature sets. So malware safe. So your storage repositories are encrypted, and which is a pretty good thing. So, and then from a cloud perspective, so you've got Amazon S3 Glacier I mentioned earlier, and Azure Archive. So think about it, up to 20 times savings on cost if you use S3 or Azure Cold Storage. So send your backups to Amazon and to Azure, and then leveraging Veeam's cloud tier offerings, and keep your files over there for long-term data retention. From an instant recovery, I touched on earlier about RTOs, recovery time objectives. So this is that's where the beauty is. So Oracle and NAS capabilities are now available from a recovery perspective when you're backing up your data. So the NAS backup offering is something that the market had been asking for a very long time. So I'm happy to let you know that that's now available. And then for your backup for your service provider community, right? So backup and the DR as a service offering. So the Veeam Service Provider Console has been improved as well. To my colleague Jake, are you able to have just a quick mention around the great tools available in for VCSP partners with the Service Provider Recovery Console?
Sure. So Service Provider Console, what it does and where the value is to you guys as partners is the fact that you can connect all your environments into a single pane of glass. So any guys out there that have been on the tools for a while would know the hardest part of being a second level desktop engineer would be having to log in and out of every environment. So you're spending all day remoting in to each site, logging into the console, checking. Basically, what the Service Provider Console does is connect all your partners into that one, I won't say single pane of glass because it doesn't really suit, but basically that one console. So you can manage many from one is the easiest way to say it, and where the time saving will give you back.
Thanks for that, Jake.
Sorry, Bernie, I should also mention that that's encrypted with encryption keys as well. So it's not, there's no plain text being transferred or anything. It's so far encrypted that it'd be very hard to crack.
Great, thanks. Yeah, thanks for that. That's really good. So I mentioned earlier that Veeam plays in different environments. So it's just pretty much a recap. So what does Veeam do? It backs up your files. It recovers your data. You can run it on-prem and in the cloud. There's a great automation tool, soon to be renamed, but at the moment it's presently called Veeam Availability Orchestrator. So this is like for high-level type automation and orchestration. And you can replicate between sites. So you can back up from, so there's the 3-2-1 rule. So 3 copies of your data in 2 separate media and 1 of them off-site. So that'll be, one could be, so 3 data sets on 2 separate media, could be in the cloud, could be on-prem, and another one could be sites, so you can replicate between sites. The data reuse and security, which I touched on earlier, and with NAS and archiving storage in Glacier and Amazon, sorry, and Azure. So
yeah,
that's where Veeam plays.
And Bernie, it's also worth mentioning about the Cloud Connect environment as well, where partners can set up their own Cloud Connect and terminals so that they have part of the scale out backup repository. They can push it out to an environment managed by the partners, whether that's in Azure, AWS, Wasabi seems to be a big one now. Google, you can run it in Google as well, whether you want to run it in private cloud, IBM cloud, which is interesting. Their whole infrastructure is backed up by Veeam, so they're a strong supporter. They drink the Kool-Aid, or to your on-prem data center in your offices. So there are options.
Exactly. Yeah, that's great. So now, okay. So how do we license it? So we know what the product does. We know some of the features. So how do we license it? So I like to talk to you about the Veeam Universal licensing capabilities. So I touched on earlier about one hat suits all. Basically, you can license it, as I mentioned, on-prem, in the cloud, any workload, physical, virtual. And you can also license it backup and send your backups to a service provider. To the service, if a service provider is managing it for you, you just have to and then purchase the rental keys, or they have to rent the keys. But universal license is the way forward. So socket-based licensing is slowly moving away, as in terms of being offered. To touch on some of the features that are available in Veeam Universal licensing. So if you think about CDP, continuous data protection, that's only available if in socket-based licensing, only available with the Enterprise Plus edition. Community edition, none. So AWS, Azure plugins, socket-based licensing, not at all. So archive tier, only on Enterprise Plus. So if you look at some of the features like instant recovery for NAS, so Veeam Universal licenses has all features. So if you're talking about socket-based licenses, so the Enterprise Plus edition is the high-end edition of all products. So, and because it's a high-end edition, it costs more than some of the other editions. And but if you think about the feature sets, universal licensing is the way to go. You get everything.
Bernie, also be worth mentioning, even though Community Edition has got the functionality to do it, should you encounter any issues or so forth, there's absolutely no support on that version.
Correct. So in terms of bundles, so Veeam Availability Suite is pretty much a bundle of Veeam Backup and Replication and the Veeam One monitoring tool. So you get the backup and replication capabilities, and you also get the reporting, analytics, and the monitoring from the Veeam One tool. So those two products combined as a suite, they're called the Veeam Availability Suite. So you can get that both. You can in the Veeam Universal licensing as standard, or you can get either of them from the perpetual licensing, only the Enterprise Edition. So if you add backup and replication and availability orchestrator together, those two products as a bundle, they're called the DR pack. So you can get them as a bundle. So you get VBR, Veeam One, plus the Veeam Disaster Recovery Orchestrator, which used to be called Veeam Availability Orchestrator. So for smaller customers, so remember I talked about in the previous slide about Veeam Availability Suite. So for smaller customers, 6 sockets or less, ideally 200 VMs. So we're talking about, 2 CPU servers, 2 socket servers, or 50 virtual machines or less. So those customers can get the same product as in Veeam Availability Suite, but cheaper and renamed. Only with a caveat, they have to be below those thresholds. So if it's a smaller customer, to get the same benefits as a bigger customer, but not pay the same cost, they've got an offering called Veeam Backup Essentials. They can get that too. And then from a VCSP perspective, Veeam Cloud rental licensing with Veeam Cloud service providers. So this is where my colleague Jake looks after from an Ingram perspective. Happy for you to jump in.
Sure. So from the Veeam VCSP program, so it's a Veeam Cloud and Service Provider program, all products are available as Bernard has gone through. So basically you choose what you want, you pay per month. It's on a point system, so each product is worth X amount of points, and that point is done each month at a different exchange rate because we do buy it in US dollars, so there is a fluctuating exchange rate. But yeah, you pick and select one product, well, really 2 products you can see there that are available that don't fall in the traditional product set would be both the Cloud Connect. You can only get that via the service provider program, and also the Veeam Service Provider Console. You need to be a VCSP partner to have access to that. But all the same products, it's just that it is month to month. You are, as the partner, are the owner of the license, so you actually do not sell the license to the end user, that it goes under your name. So you would be the point of contact, which makes it a bit more sticky, but also then if they do choose to leave, you have the right to turn it off at any point at the end of their contract.
Great, thanks for that, Jake. All right, so that's pretty much Veeam Backup and Replication and some of the features in cool features that have been launched with the version 11 release. As I mentioned, over 150 features. The most notable ones would be the CDP, the Continuous Data Protection, Veeam's Archive tier, and many other. But it's for a deep dive session. I really encourage you all to join next week's session, so we can actually talk about the nitty-gritties in depth, so you can actually see the Veeam powered capabilities. So next week's session is, as I mentioned earlier, is going to be more deep dive. So in the chat box, you can find the link to register. But today's session is more high-level overview of some of the great things that are happening in the market from a Veeam perspective. So I'll move on to Veeam Backup and Replication. Veeam Backup for Office 365 offerings and some of the new additions with the release of version 5. In the chat box, feel free to pop in any questions if you might have. So let's talk about some numbers. So think about it. The circa 258 million Office 365 users out there. So and growing, because that number is a constant. Is not it's always growing. There are over 133,000 companies that have downloaded Veeam Backup for Office 365. So these are companies that would have downloaded a trial key to give it a test run, and some of them will proceed with purchasing, some are still trialing, etc. So over 100. So these are global figures. and 9 million Office 365 users. So that's a lot. So that's the market opportunity. So if your customers aren't backing up their mail, thinking that, oh, it's, they've moved to 365 and thinking that's it, there's a reason why, there's a compelling reason why they need to back up their mail. I'll touch on it. And there's a great market opportunity out there because customers are downloading the trial key and they're testing it. So well worth pitching the sale to your customers or talking to your customers about what they're doing for data protection and backup for their mail. So there's 7 reasons why. I'll touch on these 6 and I'll touch on the 7. If yourself or customer or anyone in the organization accidentally deletes an email and it needs to recover that email, Veeam Backup for 365 gives you that capability to do that. So for longer term data retention policies, or if you're confused about what you get with legal hold or how long you need to keep your data, you don't need to worry about that uncertainty. If you've got clients in healthcare, financials, financial services, etc., or government, you don't need to worry about long-term data retention policies because you can actually, you've got that covered because you've got a backup offering. Internal security threats, malicious attacks. We all know malicious attacks are on the increase. There have been notable attacks that have happened in recent times in the media. So you want to have your mail protected. Or external security threats, which is pretty much the same. So you can have somebody internally as a staff member or hackers externally, or asking for ransomware. I touched on legal compliance reasons. If it's a legal company, financial services company, or healthcare, to name a few. And if you've got hybrid deployments, so you've got workloads on 365, you still have workloads running on-prem, you still have some Exchange servers on-prem, or you want to migrate from one to the other, it's always well and good to have your data backed up. Just before I move on to the next slide, accidental deletion. There was actually an article at KPMG somewhere in the UK where someone accidentally deleted the whole company's Teams files. Now, this is a large company, KPMG, it's a large organization. So that's one of the key case studies or key examples of what can happen and the impact it can have on an organization. And then 7th reason why, that's which is a real, waiting for this one. I was getting asked about this for years. Initially it was, Veeam Backup for 365 only covers Exchange Online. It doesn't cover SharePoint and OneDrive. Those features were added in previous releases. And then does it back up Teams? I can safely say Veeam Backup for 365 New Edition version 5 definitely covers Teams. So which is great. So people tend to say, oh, look, Microsoft backs up on my mail, so why should I need another backup offering? That's why I've moved to the cloud. But if you look at, if you've got a chance to look up the Microsoft shared responsibility model, so in the shared responsibility model, it clearly states that data protection is your responsibility. So Microsoft guarantees you uptime, but the data, your data, they don't guarantee you that. So if you look at things like copies of your 365 backups stored in a different location, it's on you. The recycle bin, it cleans out every now and then. Once you lose a file, delete it from your recycle bin. That's it; it's gone. But if you've got a backup offering, Veeam can protect that data for you. So this slide, apologies, it's a little. I've just realized the automation didn't come out properly. But think about inbox or folder data. In 2 years, 365 moves it to archive. Auto archive deleted items in recycle bin after a month, permanently deleted. Deleted files on OneDrive, same thing, after 3 months, permanently deleted. And if a staff member leaves a company, after a month, that data is permanently deleted. So that's one of the reasons why you need to back that data up. So with Veeam, regardless of, you're always going to have access to those files. That's the beauty with retention policies, leveraging a tool, a beautiful tool like Veeam. So it's, at the present moment, Veeam's #1 in that market compared to other offerings. So a nice summary statement. So if you need to, if you get any pushback from a customer, a nice statement, would be Microsoft Office 365 eliminates the need to host your own email, files, and content management infrastructure. However, it doesn't replace your need to have a backup of critical business data. And there's a lot of material and content around this. So anyone after this call, if you need any of this information, I have information galore around this. If you need to share it with your customers, feel free to reach out at any time and I can share that information. I can share those files. Alternatively, you can reach out to your Veeam channel manager. They'll be happy to share that information with you. So securely back up your data anywhere, any location, on-prem, Azure, AWS, a service, an external service provider. Tick a box. There's that growing need to protect your data, as I mentioned in that in that table, from accidental deletion, security threats, and cover any retention policy gaps. Quickly restore files, and same thing with meeting with legal requirements. So, sorry, apologies. This is a little bit of a busy slide, but if you think about it, so when customers and partners are comparing, let's say, Veeam backup for Office 365 with other vendors out there that offer the same or similar capabilities. So in a nutshell, this one slide with all these key features is a great comparison tool. So think about restoring any file to a prior version. Save multiple or individual files. Restore a tab to an original location. Restore a file to the original location. Like save multiple files as a zip file. It's save, exchange, item as a message. There's so many feature capabilities, endless capabilities with Veeam backup for Office 365. That's the beauty with it. So this slide, feel free to screenshot that and keep it as a reference point. Happy to share the slide deck after the presentation. There's so many great feature capabilities. It's not just backup, but here's some of the compelling reasons why, and some of the great tools embedded within this technology. So up next, I'm going to talk about Kasten and Kubernetes. So Kubernetes is a great new, many of you will be aware. Some are still new to Kubernetes and why, but Kubernetes is great when it comes to containerization, So Veeam purchased a company called Kasten. It's now part of the Veeam product set. It's now on. It's part of the. It's orderable on the price list. So Kasten is a Veeam company, and they've been embedded into Veeam, and some of the capabilities have been merged, and so with it's a great and a strong foundation. So multiple workloads. Whether it's traditional or containerized. So multiple environments, on-prem, in the cloud, and it's application aware. And you can use multiple storage vendors, so you don't have, a vendor lock-in. So data protection and mobility for Kubernetes. So the VBR, backup and recovery from a traditional Veeam perspective, application mobility. So you can use all these capabilities regardless of whether you're running containers whether it could be VMware, Kubernetes, or any of Kubernetes providers. So you can leverage Veeam to back up those applications in those containers. And so in a nutshell, so this is pretty much how the benefit of Kubernetes and Veeam. So, but next week we're going to deep dive into some of these offerings, and then give you the actual full deep dive technical perspectives. But for the benefits and the purposes of this call is to give you a quick high-level overview, so you can see some of these capabilities and know the offering is out there in market and ready to go. And then for any other individual type conversations around how application data centric management capabilities Veeam has with Kasten, we can have those conversations, but it's software only. It's quite easy to use and secure. So, being conscious of time, we have 15 minutes left. I'm just gonna go through some of the features in Veeam's K10 platform, from auto app discovery. If you can see GFS retention, they're great, operational support tools like authentication, alerting, monitoring, and then from data operations, like with your logical database captures, global cataloging, and API, you can run API queries. They're great features in K10, and any other questions you might have, you can pop them in the chat box, and we can touch on them later. So I'm going to quickly go through some of the promotions we have in market. So we're running some campaigns, Ingram Micro and Veeam. So we're running a Veeam perpetual and subscription DREG campaign. So on every net new opportunity, you're using your Veeam dual registration ID. You can actually, for instance, a net new opportunity, if you register DREG, valued between $1,000 and $15,000, you'll be eligible for a $100 gift card. It'll be an e-gift card sent to your mailbox. So one of the compelling reasons why it's always great to register deals. So if that opportunity is valued at above 15K, that DREG voucher doubles. So you'll be eligible for a $200 Visa e-gift card. So $14,999 and less, $100 gift card. 15K and above, $200. So that's just initially, just for submitting the DREG. All right. let's say it's for Veeam Universal Licensing, Veeam Availability Suite. If that customer, or if you add on Veeam Backup for 365 with that DREG, or propose that for that customer, so you can say to the customer, okay, you need to back up your workloads, your how many VMs are you running, etc. How many servers do you need to back up? The traditional qualifying questions. If they want to back up their data center, and then you say, what about your mail? And then if they say yes, we're looking to consider backing up our mail as well, you can put in a DREG for backup for 365, and that earns you another $100. So if that opportunity is 15K and above, that's $200. Add Veeam Backup for 365, that's an additional $100. So for ideally one DREG, for 2 product sets, gets you $300. So yeah, so that's great. So getting paid just for submitting a DREG. And for the VCSP community, the Veeam Cloud Service Provider community, so I'll let my colleague, it's pretty much the same, but I'll let my colleague Jake touch on that.
Thanks, Bernie. Yeah, so currently we're running a promo. So if you're at a point where it's more viable to actually upgrade your plan, we do have a lot of non-commit and lower plans that should be about right. It also comes into conjunction with, there's been a release as of the 1st of April, there will be a price increase on the Bcsp plans. Non-commit will be going up 8 to 9%, so there is some value to start to look at the 200 point plan. So if you are in a point that you can upgrade, please consider this. So if you're going from non-commit to something up to a 3500 plan, that's from 200 to 235, will give you a $100 gift card. If you're a non-commit and you're going to jump all the way up to 5,000 plus, if you've got 100,000, that would be awesome. But yeah, we're looking at giving a $200 gift card. And if you are on a commit plan but looking to increase, then there is a $100 card up for grabs. So please register if you're about to do that or considering to do that. Back to you, Ben.
Thanks a lot, Jake. So just a reminder, so next Wednesday, the 24th of March, we're going to be running the technical session. So if some of the slides that we may have sped through, we'll take some time to deep dive and talk about some of those key features around CDP, around Glacier, around the ransomware capabilities, or we'll talk about Veeam Backup for Office 365, how to schedule backups, how to run backups, how to we can also talk about recoveries, how you can recover a file successfully, how to check for errors, etc. We'll be touching on those key features. We can run a few demos for you, so it'll be great for you to log in as well. But I'm reserving the last couple of minutes for questions. So feel free to pop in any questions you might have.
Thanks a lot, Bernie, for helping out with this and putting through the education piece. It's been really good.
Yeah, no problem at all. No problem at all. And I mean, yeah, to everyone on the call, it's if you've got any questions at all, feel free to reach out to myself and Jake, and happy to address those questions offline. I'll be sharing the slide decks to all recipients, all attendees, so they can be recipients of the slide deck as well. And people have been asking me for years, when will Veeam have CDP? capabilities, and it's been a long time coming. And version 11 is a great release. Over 150 enhancements and new features in the product. That's really great. And Veeam Backup for 365, the ability to back up teams, the long-awaited ability to back up teams. It used to back up teams, but with an asterisk. But the new version is great. I'll recommend, as a key takeaway, having conversations with your customers around what they're doing with their mail backup, and what backup offering are they using, if any, and the need to back up files from a data protection and from a long-term data protection perspective. And then talking about customers around 100% uptime, continuous data protection on the go, and any other thing we may have mentioned. So for the service provider community, feel free to reach out to Jake, and so we can talk about the availability service provider console. How you can get access to it, and what are the cool, interesting features that are in the product.
100%.
Okay, so I can't see any questions in the chat box, so we might just hang around for a few more minutes. But if you'd like to drop off and continue on with your day, feel free to do so. Thank you on behalf of the Ingram Micro Veeam team. Would like to thank you all for attending the call, and looking forward to seeing you on the next one.
Thank you so much for making the time for today.
Correct, that's true. So on behalf of Veeam and Ingram Micro, thanks again.
Thanks all.